Do you still remember the first trade you ever made? Every time you place an order, you are learning more about yourself. How we view it defines who we are. Edward Thorpe, before the creation of the first global quantitative hedge fund, the world could not fathom that trading strategies could be executed automatically. James Simons, before the establishment of the Medallion Fund, people did not think that zeros and ones would get you far in the trading world. BingX, before the launch of crypto copy trading services, public opinion doubted the potential of ordinary investors to make profit trading. Currently, over 3.2 million people are using copy trading services globally. BingX is still actively recruiting high-quality traders. Come build the future of social trading with us.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another BingX AMA session. I'm your host, Elvis Carrington, Head of Communications at BingX. And today we have a really great guest for you. His name is Andre, and he's the CEO of Spheroid Universe. And basically what the company does is that Spheroid Universe is a platform for developing extended reality projects. And to give you more details about what Spheroid Universe is, I would let Andre, go ahead and give you an update, a rundown of what the project is, etc., and give you an idea of what they're doing. Over to you, Andre.
Thanks. Happy to be here. Happy to share what we're doing to the community. And so we are augmented reality platform, extended reality platform. It's like a more fancy way to call it. Basically, more or less, it's the same from technical point of view. And we are developing tools and infrastructure for business and advertising agencies and developers to build augmented reality apps, metaverses, and different experiences. And I think it makes sense to start with a little bit of better understanding for those of you who might not be aware of what's the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality, to give you that a bit of explanation. So virtual reality is basically a world that is isolated from the real one. It's some fantastic world. You can visit it via your desktop computer or using a VR helmet. And you're totally inside that world. Nothing really matters outside of that world. And augmented reality or extended reality is a different thing. Augmented reality is a technology that overlays virtual objects, virtual worlds over the real one. It is always connected to the real world. And I would like us to help me and screenplay a video to get a better feeling of what it looks like. So any of the videos that we have for this AMA session, could you please turn it on now? Yes, yes, this is, for example, the game that is being developed on top of our platform with the technologies that we develop. As you can see, you are in the real world, but it is inhabited with some alien creatures you can communicate, you can fight with and interact with. And that is the game that is being developed right now and is scheduled for release in 2024. Maybe you will be able to show some other videos while we are talking, but again, basically augmented reality is adding virtual objects over the real world. That is another project that was made on collaboration with the Vancouver Biennale. I will be able to talk about it a bit later. Some other videos will come here soon. And while it's coming, augmented reality metaverses, and we have our own metaverse, which is called Spheroid Universe, has, as a technology, has a lot of challenges that virtual metaverses do not have. I mean, the real challenge for the virtual world metaverses is to create a world that is entertaining enough to get the audience in, and that's a hell of a task. To make this audience involved in the processes that are happening in this metaverse. And augmented reality metaverses and apps has all the same challenges that virtual reality worlds are having, but they have some additional technical ones that are solved in virtual reality worlds and that are not solved yet in augmented reality worlds. And those are the challenges that we as a company that are developing tools are solving. And let me talk a bit about those major problems that we in augmented reality sphere are having. So the first one is about positioning virtual objects of the real world with a high precision. Because when we want to place some, for example, let's say an advertising or some particular space over some particular shop or entrance to a cafe or restaurant, for example, we need to ensure that this object is really on its place. It's not shifting, it's not moving on the other street to our competitor, right? And the problem here that we are only able to understand the position of a user because he's wearing a device. If it's smart wearables or it's a phone he's holding, we're only able to get the data from the sensors of the device. And those sensors are not accurate enough. So GPS is not accurate in a dense city. It gives you an error rate up to 30 or 50 meters sometimes. Compass is more or less the same. It could give you an error rate up to 15 degrees. And that leads to visual misplacement of virtual objects on top of the real world. And they're not placed, if you're not using some additional techniques, they're not placed correctly. And that could be a problem, a big problem. Imagine you want to congratulate your girlfriend, for example, and you've made an awesome sign, like with the red letters, I love you, and the heart, which is beating, right? And you've placed it over the house where your girlfriend is living. And then you show her this augmented reality experience, and suddenly it appears over the neighbor's house. And there, another girl is living, right? And she's also same, as beautiful as your one. And that could be fatal for you. And you won't be able to explain, hey, it's a, it's a sensor, something is wrong. You know, you don't want to be in that situation. And same for business, right? You want your objects to be placed exactly on the spot where you expect them to be. But since sensors are not accurate enough, we have to solve it in a different way. And that is challenge number one that we are solving. Challenge number two that we are solving is about better efficiency. So for example, in every virtual metaverse that you're visiting, in every virtual world, you are usually sitting in front of your computer or wearing a helmet, and that is connected to the electricity chain to wires, and you don't have to spend the battery inside your device. But augmented reality is always, it's a different thing. You are always moving around the city, you are traveling, you are observing what is happening around, and you're limited with the capacity of your battery inside your mobile device. And it does a lot of computations to be able to render all these three-dimensional objects and to make them look realistic, it makes a lot of computations, it takes a lot of battery power. And that is a problem number two. So we have to make this world looks pretty nice. And at the same time, we have to be as efficient as possible, because otherwise you will drain your battery very quickly and you will like just to be able to spend it like 3 or 5 minutes, and that's not enough. That's not enough for business. That's not enough for the screenplay we are expecting and business is expecting you to spend. And that is a problem number two we're solving. So we have the same challenges that virtual reality metaverses are having. In addition to them, we have some technical challenges that are not yet solved by the humanity at that scale. And we are moving with other companies to the direction of solving those. And how do we solve that? How do we do that? Well, it's interesting concepts. And I think it will be easy to understand if we compare ourselves to computers. Because you as a human, nobody of you, I guess, is having like sensors inside your body, right? You don't have GPS, you don't have compass, not at least at the moment, maybe several years from now, but not at the moment. And you're still able to understand where you are standing, what is the building you are looking at, what is the sign of the of that building is meaning. And because you are the human, rely on your visuals, your eyes. Those are the sensors you are using to understand your position. Same we do in Spheroid Universe. We are using visual techniques to get the data from the surroundings, to process it using neural networks, and to get the digital twin of the surroundings. And that digital twin helps us to match the real world with the digital twin information about that world, and to match the position of the user with a very high accuracy, and to understand user's position and to stream relevant data. So that is how it is solved, basically. The technology behind that is called Spheroid Earth. It's a project about gathering the visual data from all over the world with the help of community. The problem number two, and I will talk about that a bit later with more details. And the problem number two that we are solving is battery efficiency. And to do so, we've built our own proprietary engine for augmented reality apps that is focused on power efficiency and mobile first approach. And that helps us to get the maximum of performance with a very little power consumption. So that is the problem two we're solving. And we are developing tools for developers and special programming language that they're using to build the apps on top of our ecosystem and on top of the cloud environment that we provide for them. Yeah, so that was a quick introduction of what we do. I hope it was not too technical and you were able to understand how it works. But in any case, if you have some additional questions while you are watching it or maybe later, feel free to ask, and I will be happy to answer on those.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andre. That was pretty great. I actually enjoy watching the videos, and it's pretty interesting and amazing the world that we're trying to create for the future and for the next generation in terms of how they can use VR and AR, etc. But after seeing all the videos, etc., I wanted to know how do users control who they want to see what the content that they're putting out there?
Yeah. So we have something that is called spaces. Spaces are virtual reality lands inside our metaverse. And not only inside our metaverse, and I will be speaking about that a bit later, but basically what we've done, we've parceled out the Earth onto plot like 50 by 50 meters, that we call spaces. And those spaces are meant to be minted by our users. And the one who owns a space decides what content could be shown on that space inside Spheroid Metaverse. And he or she is able to rent it and lease it to others, to companies or to other people. They are able to set up the prices and to manage the moderation policies about what is allowed and what is not allowed on top of their spaces in the Spheroid Metaverse. And that is how we decentralizing and making this metaverse ruled by community. So the community decides what is allowed and what is not, on which term are you allowed to place some content there and which content is allowed and which is not. But spaces as a concept goes way beyond the owning a plot of space in Spheroid Metaverse. What we actually meant by creating spaces is it's a part of technology for open source project for gathering the visual data from all over the world to make the positioning inside some particular spot called space to be made with a high accuracy. And what we are doing, we are asking our community to help us gather this visual data from all over the world and to connect it to spaces. Once this data is gathered and connected to spaces, when an app that was built with Spheroid tech or built outside of the ecosystem, but it uses this data to position the app inside the virtual and the real world. When it happens, people who helped us to gather this data are the ones who are rewarded with a part of the revenue that this commercial service is generating. So one of the assets that we are giving for the community in exchange of the work of gathering this data are the spaces. And so the spaces are not only the asset that allows you to say, hey, I'm the one who is owning this space and I will be the one who will be earning on if anybody is wanted to place something here. But the more important thing, and that is super cool, it's important, and it's a very interesting idea. But what is maybe even more important is that those who are having and holding those spaces are responsible for having those spaces digitized and having those spaces constantly updated as the world constantly changed. And for doing so, they are receiving not only the renting revenue from when they are allowing some content to be placed on that space, but they're also receiving reward when apps are being launched and run on that space and are using the data that they have been gathering to make the positioning inside this environment perfect. And that is really why those spaces were created, because we need community to help us again gather this data, and we need to reward this community with something valuable. And spaces is that asset that our community is receiving in exchange of this work. Also, spaces are something that we sell on the primary market as a platform to anybody who's willing to purchase it. And we use those funds to finance our development process. So basically it is another way of making, of raising the funding for the project. So we ask community to help us by purchasing spaces, and we develop tools special ecosystem services that brings developers into the ecosystem, and those developers are creating apps, and those apps are using the data that was gathered by the community, and that it's symbiosis, very powerful one, and it's a win-win for everybody here. And that is what are spaces in its depth. Yeah.
So basically, thanks so much for explaining that. So we have one of the users, Ash. He or she, they ask, what is Spheroid's marketing strategy, and how do you plan to implement global adoption? How do you intend to gain more users, community, and investment from around the world? Very interesting question. And take on that?
Sure. Well, it's a good question, and that is something that differs us from all the competitors in the field that we are aware of, and we allow them, most of them, and they're doing great. But what differs us from all of the competitors in the field is that spaces are not really something that is connected only to the Spheroid Metaverse, and that's it. Spheroid Metaverse is only one of the app that is possible on top of the engine that we are developing, and on top and the apps that will be using this data for perfect positioning of virtual worlds. Idea that we are following, and the strategy that we've developed and following, is about bringing and building developers community that will be using the tools, the advanced tools that we've made so far and we are developing, to build power efficient and apps that are that have perfect positioning inside real world on top of Spheroid ecosystem. And the core differentiation that we're having, if we compare the spaces of Spheroid with any other virtual lands, is that our spaces, Spheroid spaces, are connected to each and every app that is built or will be built on top of Spheroid ecosystem. So the one who owns a space decides, first of all, he decides, he or she decides what to put, what are the rules for placement of content inside Spheroid Metaverse. But at the same time, they are the ones who are who benefit from the process of building 10 and hundreds and thousands of apps on top of Spheroid ecosystem. Because when an app is built using Spheroid tech, and a developer wants to monetize it, the developer will be able to use our services that allows to place content in the app that was developed by this developer. I mean, it is commercial content and advertising content. And when this content is placed, and most of the times, the apps that are being developed using augmented reality technology are location-based apps. So it's not like some abstract area. It is almost always the area that is connected to some real location. And so when this app is being monetized by a developer by placing content at some spot, space owner is the one who receives part of that revenue. So it basically splits between developer, the platform, and the space owner. And the more we are building, the more advanced our technologies are, the more developers we are able to attract. And so the more developers are expected to build on top of the platform. And the more revenue and the more benefits space owners are going to receive. And our strategy is not about us creating some fancy metaverse, which is also a part of our strategy, but that's not the core. Our strategy is about building tools that are super efficient, that are super easy to use for developers, that attracts the community of developers into the ecosystem. And those developers are intended to create many, many different apps that will be using our services and using our infrastructure. And that is how space owners, that is one of the ways and one of the most important ways for space owners to get the benefits out of that, out of owning a space. And that is also the answer on the question, how are we gonna compete with other metaverses? How are we gonna compete with other ecosystems? And what is our like the goal and the plan for that? I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, perfect. We have actually have some really interesting questions. There is one person from the audience who said who think the project is actually pretty cool. Danica. Basically, one of our questions is, do you have any plans to attract non-crypto investors to join your project? And she believes that this is a success. It could be a successful project and it can attract more investors. So she just wants to know, like, if you're also have plans to attract those persons who are non-crypto investors.
Well, absolutely, yes. First of all, like a couple of months ago, we've made an update for the marketplace, and now people who are not really into the crypto and are not aware of what is crypto is about, and they don't have any wallets, etc., they're able to purchase spaces with just a credit card, and you can do it from any place in the country. We have the major player for these services connected to our ecosystem. And if the question is like a bit wider, are we interested in attracting like the fund for the technologies that we are developing? That's something that we can consider. Yeah, so we are happy with the results that we are having right now. But when we feel that we will need to scale and we need like additional funds for speeding up the development process, that is something we can consider. Definitely, why not?
Okay, great.
What I wanted to say in addition to that question is that we understand that today only the minority of people are involved in crypto, and most of the people are like they're not having this experience. They don't have wallets and they don't have anything, and that is why we are really focused on creating services that are not only tied to crypto technology. So we are developing tools that can be used for people who are not really aware of what is crypto all about, how it works, but they are still able to join the metaverse, to do the digitizing of the surrounding, to help us to play the games and apps that are developed on top of the ecosystem, on top of the infrastructure that we are developing. So yes, that is also one of our strategic points that we follow, to create and to present services and to make those services both working with crypto and without it. Crypto helps us a lot in many different ways. It helps us to distribute the revenue. It helps us to get people rewarded and help get the traction and help us to get transaction with a very low price, etc., etc. But again, at the moment, not the very minority of people are crypto users. So we should think of all the people around, not only crypto users, and that what helps us to bring additional user base to the platform, and that is part of our strategy. Yes.
Yeah, great. So what I want to also know too, because I mean the content can vary, different people, they will create different content. They'll put it out there for everyone to see. And I just want to know is like what are the mechanisms in place, to basically control what kind of content people put out there?
Yeah. Yeah. So there are several ways to place for the in the augmented reality. And if you're a developer, we are giving you and providing you with powerful tools to code, to make it interactive, to program basically whatever you want. But we understand that most of the people are not programmers, are not developers. So we are developing a zero-code approach and something that is very easy to use. So anybody could place an object and to program it without having the skills of a developer. And we are developing the special service that is called Spheroid Warp. It's a three-dimensional editor that allows you to select a three-dimensional model or upload your model, to set it up, to tune it up, to add some animations and interactions to it, and that is all done like super easy. Yeah, so that is the content. At the moment, it allows you to place content that set up some interactions. And right now, we are rolling out like it will be. Some of the options are available starting from today. We have added conversational AI to Spheroid Warp, so people are able to select a three-dimensional object, an avatar, or I don't know, whatever it looks, and to define its personality, and to explain to artificial intelligence how this object should communicate, how it should feel about itself, what it's all about, how it looks, and what it should talk to people, what questions should it ask, what answers should it make, should it give, what type of communication you expect from this object to make, how it should behave, and it will follow it. And you just type it like in a simple words, just as you would describe it to any other person. And once you've done it, you've deployed it, and all the process like will take you just several minutes maximum. Everybody all over the world could visit this place and can talk to this object, and it will talk to you, and it's super amazing how it works. It's just fantastic. Yeah, and that is something that is we are releasing like in the coming days and weeks. We are constantly improving the service and adding new features to that. Yeah, that is one of the things.
Yeah, I think this is, man, I think, Andre, I think this is a really brilliant project. And I like the fact, I think what I like about our Spirit is that, it creates a new avenue for content creators to express not just what they see, but also what they think, what they feel. It allows them to be creative in so many different ways. There are a lot of people out there who have a lot of ideas and, but they can't really create it so well. And I feel like this platform gives them the opportunity to do that. We have the NFTs, and now we would have this, I think this is a brilliant idea. And who knows, maybe people will come up with some wonderful ideas that could change this world. I think overall it's a pretty great project. Yeah, but you mentioned some earlier. Yeah, thanks. No, welcome. No, no problem. You're welcome. One thing that you mentioned that I also want to ask is you mentioned about advertising for companies. We focused on our retail users, but what about businesses? Basically, how do they advertise using Spheroid?
Yes. So Spheroid Warp basically is a service that allows you to place content on top of some location, but not only on top of some location inside Spheroid Metaverse, but also inside all the apps that were created by developers community, if those developers are willing to allow you to place content in those apps and to monetize it in that way. And what we are building the connection, the bridge between developers community and business and advertisers. One of the problems that advertising agencies are facing is that all the advertising that we see right now, it works like you need to always invent something new, how to entertain your user, how to get the attention of user, because we have so much going on around us. We have like a lot of banners, a lot of text ads, a lot of everything that is kind of streamed to you, and we are as a humans invented some kind of blurriness. We are taught not to see the advertising, and that is a problem for advertisers, not for us, but for advertisers, not for us as human beings. And in order to solve that, in order to be able to promote your products and goods and whatever you are doing, you need to get those people to know about your product, and at least you want them to be happy with interaction with your ads. And that is something that is very hard to achieve in a traditional media, in traditional ads. But if we are talking about advertising in augmented reality, it's a whole new thing. Because you can create an interactive story where your clients will be attending at. You can create something very spectacular and interesting to attend, because it will be just interesting for user to get to know your brand, because you are gamifying it, because you are making it credible, and you're making it like a quest, for example. And a lot of things that you can do in augmented reality, because augmented reality itself is not limited to the physical world laws and limitations. You can make a hovering objects like giant and look like covering all the city, and it will cost you just the same as you are creating a tiny one that is standing nearby on your table that could talk to you, like an alien, for example. And you are not really limited. The only limitation is your fantasy and the way you want you to interact with clients. And what is more important, what is also important, as long as we build those different apps, advertisers and businesses able to choose what is the audience they want to interact with, what is the context of the app or the game they are willing to the app to be placed at. And that is also very important part of selecting the channels. So we are building the ecosystem where business and advertisers will be able to choose from many different options, but not only about placing the ad, but customizing it in very in many ways possible that are even not invented yet, but they will be, because it's a place of like incredible opportunities in terms of visuals, in terms of new approaches, in terms of new ways to get your brand be presented and understood.
Yes, I just want to remind the audience that we're giving away 20,000 SPH after the AMA session. So please stay tuned for that. And one last question before you go, Andre, I would like to ask you is like, where do you see Spheroid in the future? Like, from now to the future, what do you envision the company to be?
We really believe that the world is changing. And it changes like in many different ways. But what is important, one of the most important changes for us is that today we are finally able to make people who are participating in a project to become those who are not only participating and contributing to it, but also who are helping to make it better, who are receiving benefits out of that process. So, for example, the digitizing the Earth project, which is Spheroid Earth, is impossible for us as a startup alone. It is just not possible. It's too big task for us to solve as a startup. I don't think it's even possible for corporations. They're huge, like Apple and Facebook. They're doing pretty much the same, but they are the ones who are collecting the data, and they will be definitely the ones who will be monetizing it on its own, right? Normal way to do in a traditional way of doing business. But and we can't compete with corporations if we are like moving simple. We are trying to digitize the earth. That's not possible because corporations have so much more resources, so much more money, so much more capabilities. But the same way as corporation is bigger than any startup, the same way the world, the humanity, the population, like the whole world, is bigger than any corporation. And if you think of that in that way, you will start to understand that if we are able to track this community and we are able to unite it for the global task that is not solvable for any startup or even corporation in a fully way. That is something that gives huge advantage for the platform who are doing that, and for any project who are doing that. Imagine a world without Wikipedia. We can't really do that because Wikipedia has won over each and every centralized pedia that we are aware of. And why? Because the world constantly changes. So the world needs a lot of data to be gathered and to processed, etc., etc., etc. Same we are doing. But the difference is we're not only asking community to contribute. With the blockchain technology that came to us as an invention a couple, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, we are now able to distribute the value that we are creating together. And where do we see ourselves in several years from now? We are seeing ourselves as a project that unites a lot of people from all over the world in a global process of gathering and processing and developing a huge project that we are not only the sole owners of which, but we are sharing the results, the commercial results with the community. And that is, we believe, one of the most important things we can do as a project.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Andre, for giving us introduction about Spheroid and telling us what are your future plans, what you guys intend to do, how you plan to revolutionize this company in the future. And I just want the audience to know that if you want to learn more about Spheroid, you can visit their website at spheroiduniverse.io. There they have some information on their site, and that way you can get more information about them, learn more about what they do, and if you have any questions, maybe drop them an email, etc. So thank you guys for joining, and thank you so much, Andre, for sharing so much about your project and what you do. It was really great having you today, Andre.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Okay, have a great day. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.